Well, in today's video, we're going to continue ripping apart the rustiest 1959 Chevy El Camino on YouTube. Let's go. That's right, guys. That's what I said. The rustiest 59 El Camino on YouTube. Well, I can't guarantee that, but we got to be close, right? If you know of any other 59 Chevy builds on YouTube, let me know. I love to check them out. Now, quick recap. This is a 1959 Chevy El Camino that I purchased probably 8 years ago. Dragged it home, and well, I've been dragging it around ever since, and we're finally getting to work on it. And in the last few videos, we've tore out the rear end and replaced all of that with all new components. And now we're on the front of the car. And in the last video, we found out that it's a bit worse than we thought. There's a lot of rust and a lot of rot. I mean, I know it's very common in these cars. I mean, I've been told that they're always rusty. And somebody even said that they came from the factory with rust. So, so I'm scrounging around trying to find replacement parts. You know, the front end was pretty rough. We had to cut a lot of those bolts, and we're gonna have a lot of metal work to do, but well, if that's what we need to do, then we'll get it done. Now, I mentioned how rusty that front end was that we just tore apart, and it brings me to something I wanted to share with you guys. You know, I've been looking for parts for this for years. I always keep my eyes out and trying to get parts here and there, and there was a front end to a 59 Chevy on Marketplace for sale almost a year ago, I guess, that I'd inquired about, and he was asking, I think it was like $350 or $400 for a complete front end of a 59 Chevy, not the full fenders, but somebody had cut the nose off of a 59 Chevy, and then he was selling that, the grill, the bumper, core support, everything like that. And after talking with him for a bit about a year ago, I kind of gave up on it, and I didn't really pursue it much anymore. But after last week's video, when we tore the front of this car apart and saw how rusty it was, I was kicking myself for not purchasing it. I scoured Marketplace and it was gone. It had been removed. But I dug through all my old messages on Messenger, and I'd found our last conversation from almost a year ago, and I contacted him, asked him if he still had it, and he did. Like I was saying, last time we talked, I think it was $300 was what we were talking, and well, I just told him, you know what, I got $200. I'll give you $200 for it. I'll come get it tomorrow. And he said, yeah. So I went over there, and it was Sketchville. It was so sketchy. I just wanted to get in and out. I didn't really look at it very closely. Gave him the money, loaded it up, and left, headed to work. But I finally got home from work, unloaded it, and was able to take a look at it. Let me show you. So here it is. And this is what I'm talking about. They literally cut the front of the car off. And he told me, yeah, it's got the headlight buckets and the core support. And I'm thinking, yes, this is going to be a score. I'm going to have all the parts I need. Well, look at it, guys. After I got home and took a closer look, it's in worse shape than the stuff that we had. I mean, these headlight buckets are just, they're worse off than ours. Even the part that I thought was bad on ours looks good compared to this. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a couple pieces here and there that we could use. This bottom balance, that's in good condition compared to what we got. You know, ours, let me show you really quick. Completely rotted through. And another thing, like this little bumperette is smashed on this one. And this piece of trim right here is ruined. Now, those pieces over here, those are in pretty good condition. This one's nice and straight. And this piece of trim, I already removed it. This one's definitely going to be going on the car. It's in better shape than we got. But the rest of this is pretty hammered. I mean, the bumper has got a few little blemishes, but ours is pretty decent. And this is a two-piece. Ours is a one-piece, which I believe is California only. A one-piece bumper. But I mean, it's got a little bit of a bend there and a little bit of a blemish there. So between the two bumpers, it's a toss-up. I'm not sure which one's better. This grill is pretty damaged here. Plus we got the bar grill that I kind of like as well, so we'll probably run the bar grill, but we'll get a few pieces off of this at least. But what I got is just a wall hanger. This is not going to be usable. And then the core support, I was thinking, sweet, we'll use the core. Well, it's rotten in the same exact spot. It's going to do us no good. Now I did see that these, I think they call them C-panel, or these headlight mounting panels, the one that's rotted out over here. They do repop those. They're about $100 a piece, but we're not even to that point yet. Anyway, we need to keep working on the suspension and get that all disassembled up here. So what I'm gonna do is, you know, kind of wire wheel some of these bolts, try to get all the debris off of them so I can get them, soak them. I've already sprayed them down with penetrating fluid, but get them cleaned up, get the threads cleaned up, re-soak them again, really get those penetrating, and we'll start disassembling this front suspension. You know, I got all the new ball joints and all the bushings for that whole front suspension, sway bar Lincolns, and all new tie rods, shocks. So pretty much everything we need to do to rebuild this whole front suspension. So I'm gonna get busy cleaning this up a bit, and we'll get this whole front end stripped clean. All right, let's go. Okay, I've been getting some of these castle nuts and other mounting locations all cleaned up and sprayed down with some penetrating fluid, you know, up in here. Now you can kind of see on this side, which I haven't done yet, like some of this stuff is just so caked on that I had to, you know, like this one, I have to excavate to try to find that bolt there. But you know, I noticed when you have to remove this much grease and road grime and what have you, sometimes those bolts are kind of protected from rusting under there. So I'm going to go ahead and continue getting these all cleaned up. I use my wire wheel on the drill bit and then soak them down with some PB Blaster. Hopefully they come apart a little bit easier that way. Alright, I got all those nuts and bolts soaking. Got them cleaned up with the wire wheel and soaking with some penetrating fluid. And I even cut off that old rusted core support bolt that was there before it cut me. But it's pretty rusty up here. I don't see any holes or anything, but I wanted to clean that up a little bit while those others are soaking. You know, usually I use a wire wheel, which I got some more here. But I picked one of these up. I've never used one of these here yet. I'm going to throw that on there and hit this little area on the frame, clean up a little bit, see how that looks. Alright, it worked pretty good. You know, it kind of reminded me of one of these flapper disc wheels. It's pretty pitted up though, guys. Look at this. Nothing all the way through, but now I do think a wire wheel would probably get into these pits a little better, so I'll probably switch over to a wire wheel and hit it again. And it's pretty rough, but you know, the whole car is rough, so I'm not surprised by anything at this point. Well, I'm going to get the last of these heat shields, or this tin right here, get that out of the way, and I guess we'll start ripping that suspension off. Alright, I got that tin off of here and was able to get to the last of these castle nuts and soaked all these nuts and bolts. And well, now I'm going to start by getting these hubs off. You know, popping this dust cap off and getting these hubs off. And then we could take off this whole brake assembly all in one unit, I believe. You know, just be able to unbolt the backing brake and pull it off the spindle. And then we'll just do that on both sides and then continue from there. All right. Now, one thing I noticed, these front brakes don't look nearly as bad as the back did. Not as rusty or worn out. Even all these wheel studs look fine, where the back ones, they were pretty hashed. This grease is just dried up. Yeah. We'll get them all repacked with fresh grease and everything. Yeah, I didn't buy new bearings. I'm hoping that these are all good. You know, if not, we'll get new bearings as well. I also got another set of hubs off of another El Camino from Springfield Auto Recyclers when he was closing, so I do got an extra set of hubs if there's any damage or anything wrong with these ones. They're pretty dry. A hint of surface rust. Nothing too bad. This inner bearing race is just setting in here though. That's usually they're kind of press fit, but that one's just sitting there. But yeah, it wouldn't have gone much longer before it started rusting up. But we'll be able to at least get new bearings if we need to. I'll check these out. These are the original ball bearing style. Pretty cool. All right. And then you get the wrench on the back side here. All right, remove those two bolts. It actually just removed the steering from the back of the spindle. And as a matter of fact, before I go and separate these ball joints, we probably should get the shocks out of there. So next I'm going to get the shocks out of there. And those bottom bolts look pretty rough. And I got to get up underneath here. So I'm going to try to maybe raise this up a little more or clean this up and move the tie rods. But I need to get up underneath here, get those shocks out of here. And then at this point, we'll probably just break the ball joints loose. You know, on the Nova, I've done it a few times where I just put a chain around the spring, so whatever happens, that thing doesn't come flying out. And then I put a jack up underneath the bottom A-arm, and with the spring tension, and I just keep the jack at maybe a ½ inch away, so when the ball joint pops, the spring, you know, the A-arm is held by the jack, and I could just lower it down, slowly releasing the spring. But if they don't give, then we got a pickle fork and we'll separate them that way. But I'm going to have to get under there and get those shocks out next. Let me move this tie rod out of the way. Give it some room. There we go. Well, this top bolt's a little tricky too. Normally I put a socket on there, but with that, the way that's angled, you can't get to it with a socket. It looks like I'm just going to be using a wrench, doing it that old-fashioned way. Got a set of, what are they, Red Riders. All right, I'm gonna get those other tie rods off and that other steering bracket off over there, get it out of the way, cut the brake lines, and then we'll break those ball joints loose. Let's go. Alright, so I cut the brake line, and I've chained the spring down so that doesn't come flying out and maim me or injure me, you know. And then I loosened this castle nut. I didn't take it all the way off, but I left it to where I could hammer on this point right here, and it should break that ball joint loose from the tension of that spring. But the castle nut will keep it from coming all the way off, and plus I put the jack under here to catch this, so that should stop it, and then we could lower it down slowly, hopefully. All right, hopefully this goes. All right. It just popped loose. Now I could get the jack to slowly release this. And I gotta take that castle nut off. Alright. Bump stop was in the way. I think we got new ones in the kit. Alright, I just removed that cotter pin out of that bottom castle nut and the bottom ball joint. Go ahead and try to loosen that. Alright, we'll use instead of using a crescent wrench, we'll actually use a wrench that fits and use some leverage here. There we go. Sure be nice if I had a lift. Not laying down here on the gravel. Hey. Now what? Huh. There might be something I need to separate once we get the rest of this off the car. Maybe put it in the vise and we'll put it in the bench vise and work on it then. There. Hi. Alright. Well, we'll be able to get this separated on the bench vise, hopefully. Now, this top one. Now these control arms are left and right specific, so don't get those mixed up. Alright, now the passenger side. Alright, we got all the suspension off. I still have to go back and finish separating the last ball joints and a few other things. And then we can get this all cleaned up. We're going to wire wheel all of this and get it all prepped to paint all this. And then we'll end up pressing out those old suspension parts and pressing in the new ones. And, well, once again, I don't have a hydraulic press, so we may be hitting up Oliver to see if we could go there and see if he could give us a hand. We could use his press again. But I'm gonna go ahead and work on getting this all cleaned up. Alright, well, it's the next day. I want to continue working on getting this all cleaned up, and I need to still separate those last two ball joints. Let me show you what I'm dealing with here. So last night, you know, we tried to separate this with the pickle fork and it didn't really go. We got the rest of it off, but now, you know, I've got some bolts under here I've been soaking. I'm gonna remove these bolts. That should allow this ball joint to separate from this A-arm, but we'll still have to separate it from the spindle. But without this hanging off of it, I could put this in the vise and work on it a little bit more. So that's what I'm working on now. I just soaked all these bolts, so I'm gonna go ahead and remove those. I think by removing these two bolts and then that other one, this ball joint does come off this A-arm. And then, yeah, and then we'll continue getting it off the spindle after that. I also soaked these other bolts, which went to the bump stop, which I broke getting the spring out anyway, so I'll need to get new bump stops. But let's see how easy this comes apart. All right, there we go. Now we just need to separate that part. Alright, here we are outside at the vise, and I was able to get all the brakes and everything off of here and the backing plate, free up just the spindle, and now we just got to get this old ball joint off. I could hammer it from this and hopefully pound it through. You know, I left the nut on there so I could hammer on this a bit. If not, we'll try that pickle fork again in here and try to separate it there, or a combination of the both, or whatever we have to do. But let's try to get that out of there. Doesn't really want to hammer out of there. Hold it in place. Dang it. I don't want to hurt the spindle. Got that pickle fork in there. Maybe now if I hammer on the top. There we go. There we go. Alright, I'm over here on the passenger side one, stripping it down so we could do the same, separate that ball joint. But now, you know, I'm removing all the brakes, and the way you remove the wheel cylinder on these fronts is with this bolt here. This is the one that I took off the driver's side. Well, look at this one. I mean, it's probably hard to see, but they used a hammer and chisel to put this one on and tighten it. There's no way I'm getting this socket on there. I'm probably gonna just have to do like they did, hammer and chisel it off. I don't know why they did it that way. I could probably reorder a new one of these, I hope. Otherwise I'll have to put it back in the way it is. But alright, once I get that off, I can remove this wheel cylinder, move this backing plate off the spindle, and separate that last ball joint, and then we can just start cleaning all this stuff up to get them ready for all the new suspension parts. So that's not working. All I did was shave off a corner of it. Maybe if I take the grinder and grind off the chunks that they've produced by hammering on it and get it to where I could get a socket on there, I could get that off. I don't know. There we go. Well, now we can start working on this ball joint right here. Well, I finally got the cotter pin out. That thing put up a fight. It's been like a half an hour getting that thing out. There we go. Got it. Alright, so some of the final things we need to do before we start cleaning these up is removing this last ball joint on the two uppers. These ones you have to grind out these rivets, and we'll get that out. And as well as removing these old rubber bushings. One of the ways of doing it is just using a torch and melting the rubber out. Once we burn enough of that rubber out, this will be loose enough. Of course, we got to pop off the ends, but we'll be able to get this out of here, and then we just press in the new ones after that's done. But yeah, grind these rivets off, get that ball joint out, and then we can start burning out those old bushings. And we just got to get these off. Alright guys, we're still working on getting these old bushings out. Now, on this one, this shaft has got interference. It's not just going to come out. And we still have to remove the rest of that bushing on both sides here. We melted out all the rubber, but we still got that inner sleeve that's on the shaft. We need to get that off. And then we need to try to get these shells for the bushings out as well. Not so easy with this shaft in there. You can't just press them out like you normally would. So I'm going to start by getting that inner sleeve from that bushing off of this shaft each side, and then we're going to try to remove these bushings without a press. It's going to be kind of tricky, but let's go. That's what I'm talking about. The inner shaft of that bushing still on this rod. There we go. Well, next I'm going to try to use a Sawzall and get in here and just slightly cut, just a slight relief cut in this bushing without touching the A-arm. And then with that slight cut, we'll be able to use a chisel and hammer it out from there. Alright, just a slight relief cut over there. Hopefully we'll be able to hammer and chisel that out now. Alright, there's one down. And 7 more. Alright guys, we got the front end of this car all blasted apart, and we started getting it all cleaned up and ready to put the new bushings and ball joints back in. Yeah, we got these A-arms, you know, mostly cleaned up. I took them to the wire wheel out there, but they still need a little bit more touching up. And then, you know, I called up Oliver and asked him if we could come over and use the press again. He said, absolutely, come on over. So next week's video, we'll head over to Oliver's and use his press. He's going to give us a hand, and we'll press in the new bushings. You know, that's Trad Rod and Customs here on YouTube. So go give him a subscribe, guys. And then I'll mount in the new ball joints and give them a coat of paint. And of course, we got the rest of this to clean up as well. We'll try to wire wheel it, clean it up, paint it. And, well, after we're done doing that, we'll be ready to start reassembling things. You know, I appreciate all your guys' positive comments. You know, I like to stay optimistic, and you guys are helping encourage that with this build. As rough as it is, I think we're going to save it, guys. And of course, I want to give a big shout out to all my members. Thank you, guys. It's your monthly membership that's actually helping me do all this. With your help, we're going to get this old classic car back on the road. So thank you. Now make sure you're all subscribed to the channel and you like the video. And leave me a comment. As a matter of fact, I got a question for you. Let me show you something and you tell me what you think it is, because I have no idea. Here, hold on. Alright guys, taking this frame apart, and I don't know what this is. I haven't really done any research yet, but maybe one of you guys will tell me. You know, it looks like it's got a ground strap, and then this mounts to something that's a rubber isolated mount of sorts. Maybe something clips in here, I'm not sure. You tell me. So yeah, leave me a comment. Tell me what you think it is. I have no idea, but I appreciate you all, and until next week, peace.